If you've ever been to a Catholic service of any kind, you know that our ministers wear very distinctive clothing. This is not some hipster church where the pastor wears jeans and a stylish jacket over a t-shirt. Come on. While the specifics of the styles have fluctuated over the years, the basic components of liturgical garb have existed for centuries, each with distinct symbolism. What do we wear and why do we wear it? This is Catholicism in Focus. We begin first with the alb, the long white robe worn underneath the other vestments and which is never omitted. You hear that, religious priests? No, you cannot wear your habit instead of an alb, even if it's white. Worn as a sort of base layer, the alb is meant to cover all ordinary clothes that might distinguish the minister, unifying all ministers into a common blank slate. This serves a practical focus, but also symbolizes the foundational unity we all share in baptism. In the book of Revelation, we read, "These are the ones who have survived the great period of trial. They have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb." For this reason, it is not only the ordained ministers that may wear an alb, but any baptized person serving in the liturgy. This includes acolytes, altar servers, lectors, and other lay ministers. Prior to the reform of the liturgy, ministers were required to say a prayer before putting on each piece of vestment. For the alb, they'd say, "Make me white, O Lord, and purify my heart, so that, being made white in the blood of the Lamb, I may deserve an eternal reward." Today, vesting prayers are recommended, but not required. For many, the alb will suffice in covering all of one's normal clothing, but sometimes additional coverage is needed around the neck. For this reason, there is an amice, a rectangular piece of linen with two long cloth ribbons worn around the neck. From the Latin word amicere, meaning to cover, and amictus, wrapped around, the amice was a head covering worn under the helmet in the Greco-Roman world to collect sweat. Introduced as a liturgical vestment by around the 8th century, it serves a practical purpose in that it collects sweat from the neck from wearing heavy vestments in non-air-conditioned churches, but also a spiritual one as well. It is armor to protect against the devil. Inspired by the words of St. Paul, "Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, the word of God," the wearer would say the following prayer while putting it on. "Place, O Lord, the helmet of salvation on my head to resist the attacks of the devil." Related to this is the cincture, a rope worn around the waist. Usually white to match the alb, it may also match the liturgical color of the vestments, reflective of the feast. Practically, it serves as nothing more than a belt, holding together the alb, which can often be very baggy. Spiritually, though, it is meant to symbolize the way one is bound by the law of God, particularly in the way of chastity. Thus, the optional prayer goes, "Gird me, O Lord, with the cincture of purity, and extinguish in my heart the fire of concupiscence, so that the virtue of continence and chastity, always abiding in my heart, I may better serve thee." Today, the amice and cincture are optional, depending on the fit of the alb. If it covers everything and is not cumbersome, neither are required. What is not optional, but does take different forms, is the stole, the long scarf-like cloth worn around the neck. For priests and bishops, it's worn over both shoulders and hangs down the center, and for deacons, it is worn over the left shoulder and is connected at the hip. Originally, the stole was fashioned after the scarf worn by imperial officials, designating their dignity and authority of their position. For this reason, priests and bishops used to mimic the crisscross nature of the Roman soldiers, but today stoles hang straight down. Symbolically, stoles evoke two important yet related images for the priest: the authority of Christ and the yoke of Christ. When the minister puts on this vestment, he is reminded of the responsibility he has to lead and to carry the church. The vesting prayer for the stole goes, "Restore unto me, O Lord, the stole of immortality, which I lost through the sin of my first parents, and although unworthy to approach thy sacred mystery, may I nevertheless attain to joy eternal." Spiritually, this is probably the most significant of the vestments, which is why it is worn during all liturgical prayers. The same cannot be said about the outer garment, which varies by order and ceremony. For Mass, and only Mass, priests and bishops wear what is called a chasuble. From the Latin casula, meaning house, it originally served as a poncho-like coat to protect the wearer from inclement weather. Spiritually, the chasuble is a reminder of the charity of Christ, offering cover for all the people in his house and forgiving sins. As St. Paul writes to the Colossians, "Over all these virtues, put on love, which binds the rest together and makes them perfect." Of all the vestments, the chasuble is the one with the most diversity in style. The earliest version, known as the conical chasuble, is an elaborate cone-shaped vestment that uses a lot of fabric and is very constricting, meaning that it was known for causing accidents. In response to this, some began wearing the fiddleback chasuble, a vestment that removed the fabric on the arms, allowing for greater mobility, while others developed the Thomas Becket style, shortening the length of the conical to the knee. Today, the latter is the most common style. Deacons do not wear chasubles at Mass, but wear what are called dalmatics, essentially fitted chasubles with sleeves. Outside of the Mass, bishops, priests, and even deacons may wear what is called a cope, a mantle-like garment that is open in the front and clasped together in the middle, getting its name from the Latin capa, which literally means mantle. Unlike a chasuble, which is reserved for the Mass alone, a cope can be worn during almost any situation to give it a little more solemnity. They are often worn during processions, blessings, burials, weddings and baptisms outside of Mass, and even solemn celebrations of the Liturgy of the Hours. Sometimes you just want to get dressed up, you know? In addition to these standard liturgical vestments, there are also a few other things you might see depending on the situation. A bishop will wear a pointed hat called a mitre when blessing the congregation or sitting in the chair, a skull cap called a zacchetto during everything but the Eucharistic prayer and communion, and carry a hook staff called a crozier, symbolizing his authority as the chief shepherd. Sometimes, altar servers or other ministers will wear a long black robe called a cassock under a loose white linen garment called a surplice. These can be worn by anyone who can wear an alb, but can never replace an alb if a stole or outer garment is required. For most vestments, the color will vary depending on the feast or season. White and gold are used for the feasts of Easter and Christmas, solemnities of the Lord, and feasts of the Virgin Mary and significant saints. It is also the color for most sacramental celebrations. Red, which symbolizes either blood or fire, is worn on Palm Sunday, Good Friday, Pentecost, celebrations of the Lord's Passion, and feasts of the Apostles and Martyrs. Purple is a sign of penance, and so is worn only in the seasons of Advent and Lent, and for the sacraments of anointing and reconciliation. During these seasons, there is one day each when rose may be worn as a sign of joy amidst penance. These days are Gaudete Sunday and Laetare Sunday. Green is likely the most common vestment color as it is worn during ordinary time when there is no special feast or celebration. And finally, black is still technically permitted as a liturgical color for funerals as a sign of mourning, but the recommendation is still to wear white, focusing on our faith in the resurrection. While some may wear blue on the feasts of Mary, this is nowhere prescribed in the general instruction or allowed by the bishop's conference. Special permission may be granted, but it is otherwise not allowed. All told, what you get is a highly sensory experience. While vestments are no doubt about honoring the liturgy and highlighting the dignity of the ministers, wearing our Sunday best, it is more primarily about drawing the congregation more deeply into the mystery of the liturgy, what God has done in the past, and what he continues to do through his ministers. He chooses to use human beings as mediators and equips them to do his work, reminding them of their call and purpose, namely to serve God and God's people. As beautiful as vestments can be, we must always remember that what is truly beautiful to God is the heart that is committed to him.